You smile, you nod, you say, "I'm fine," and the world believes you. But inside, something is rotting. Something is collapsing under the weight of pretending. You look functional on the outside, calm, composed, maybe even successful. But beneath the surface, you're holding back tears you've swallowed for years, and now they're starting to leak through the cracks. Not in dramatic breakdowns, not in screams, but in silence. In that heavy silence that follows you from room to room. The kind that wraps around your chest at 3 a.m. and whispers, "You can't keep doing this." This isn't exhaustion from work. It's not burnout from daily responsibilities. It's something deeper. This is soul-deep fatigue. This is the weight of years spent being what others needed you to be, never what you actually were. You became a shapeshifter, a mirror, a support system. You were there for everyone, but now you realize no one is there for you. Not really. Because no one knows what you carry. Because you've never let them see. And now you don't know how to show them anymore. You didn't ask for this. You didn't wake up one day and decide to lose yourself. It happened slowly. With every moment you chose peace over confrontation. Every time you said yes when your soul screamed no. Every time you smiled through pain to avoid being a burden. Little by little, your identity was carved away, not by knives, but by silence, by pretending, by staying strong when all you wanted was to fall apart. People admire your strength. They call you resilient. They say they don't know how you do it. But the truth is, they don't know because you've never told them. You've made yourself invisible through competence. And now the very thing that once helped you survive is what's slowly killing you. Because when you're always okay, people stop asking if you're okay. And when no one asks, you start to believe that maybe your pain doesn't matter. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And that's exactly what this feels like. Not isolation, but invisibility. Not solitude, but silence. You are surrounded by people, yet completely alone. Not because they left, but because you trained them not to see you. You've mastered the art of pretending. But what no one sees is that pretending has become your prison. You've become so good at faking stability that even you've forgotten how to fall apart. And now you fear what would happen if you stopped. What if you finally said, "I'm not okay"? Would they walk away? Would they laugh? Would they be disappointed in you? So you don't speak, you don't ask, you don't cry, and every day a little piece of you vanishes in that silence. But the worst part isn't the silence, it's the shame that whispers, "You should be stronger. You have no right to feel this way. Others have it worse." So instead of reaching out, you bury it deeper, and the pain, denied of air and light, festers. It grows. It steals your joy, your creativity, your passion, your will, and yet you keep going, because that's what you've always done. Maybe you've even forgotten what it feels like to be yourself, the real you, not the version who keeps it together, not the one who smiles in group photos, not the voice of reason in a crisis, the you who is raw, honest, messy, human. Maybe that version of you feels like a distant memory now, or worse. Maybe you've convinced yourself that version never existed. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are not broken. What you're feeling is the consequence of long-term self-abandonment, of pretending to be okay for too long, and that wound, unseen, unspoken, is more dangerous than any external injury. It drains your soul. It erodes your confidence. It makes you question your own sanity. And all because you were too kind, too loving, too afraid to cause discomfort. Here's the truth no one tells you. Pretending is unsustainable. The longer you fake it, the further you drift from yourself. The more you people please, the more people expect you to please. And soon you're living for everyone but you. Performing for an audience that doesn't even realize the show is killing the actor. And that's the lie. Because being nice won't save you. Being strong won't heal you. Being silent won't protect you. It only hides the pain until it becomes unbearable. Jung believed that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering, and maybe that's where you are now, distracted, anxious, numb, because facing the truth would mean confronting the identity you've built and tearing it down. But here's the paradox. Only when the mask falls can the healing begin. Only when you stop performing can your real self breathe again. And maybe, just maybe, that self is still in there, waiting for you to stop lying to yourself. This isn't just about emotions, it's about survival. Because emotional death is still death. You don't need to be in a casket to be buried. You can be 6 feet under and still walk around, smiling, laughing, showing up. But that version of you, the undead version, isn't the one you were born to be. You were born to be seen, to be heard, to feel. even if it's messy, even if it hurts, even if it means disappointing people who were never really there for you in the first place. So maybe this is the moment, the one where you stop pretending, the one where you admit, I'm not fine. And maybe, just maybe, that admission is the start of something new, something real, something terrifying but freeing. Because what if, instead of hiding, you chose to exist? Not as a character, but as yourself, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic. And maybe, just maybe, that's when everything starts to change. Because what's killing you isn't your weakness, it's your silence. And the only way out is through it. If this message touched a part of you no one else sees, write it below. Share your truth, even if it's just a word. And if you want more videos that speak to your soul, don't forget to subscribe. You're not alone anymore. You've been applauded for being the one who never falls apart. But here's the curse no one warned you about. When you always keep it together, no one ever checks if you're okay. That invisible weight you carry, it doesn't come from dramatic trauma. It comes from years of being the safe place for everyone else, while having nowhere to fall yourself. You became the dependable one, the one who listens, who fixes, who holds the pieces of others, while your own are quietly slipping through your fingers. You built your identity around being strong for others. But now that very identity is suffocating you. You wake up and instead of feeling alive, you feel responsible. Responsible for everyone's expectations, responsible for keeping peace, responsible for not breaking. But deep down, something is breaking, slowly, quietly. And the worst part, no one notices. Not because they're cruel, but because you've taught them not to notice. You've trained the world to believe you're fine, and now, no one looks deeper. You might be the one who always says, don't worry about me, but you're screaming inside, hoping someone hears what you're not saying. And that paradox is a slow death, being surrounded by people yet starving for someone to see you. This is not just about emotional pain. This is about the collapse of identity. The moment you realize the person you became to survive is not the person you truly are. It's the moment you recognize that your strength has been weaponized against your own soul. And what makes it worse is the pride that says, I can handle this. Even when you know you're not handling this, you might find yourself avoiding mirrors because you don't recognize who you've become. Not physically, but emotionally. You feel distant from your own body. You laugh at things you don't find funny. You say you're tired, but it's not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. It's the kind that comes from carrying an invisible war. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that's exactly what's happening. You've buried your needs, your sadness, your rage, so deep that now you think your exhaustion is just life. But it's not life. It's the unconscious screaming for release. It's that moment when you're driving alone and you suddenly feel the sting in your eyes, not because of a memory, but because your body is finally allowed to feel something. You weren't triggered. You were just unguarded. And your truth took the chance to surface. This is not depression. This is disconnection. Disconnection from yourself and from others. You've spent so long being fine that now you don't even know how to bleed in front of someone. You don't know how to collapse. You don't know how to need, but you do. You are desperate to be held, not physically, but emotionally. You want someone to say, you don't need to be strong right now, but they don't. Because you smile too well. You function too well, you hide too well. You've mastered the performance and it's killing you. Let's go deeper. Think back to when this started. Maybe it was childhood. Maybe it was trauma. Maybe it was the first time someone told you to stop crying and you believed that emotions were shameful. Maybe it was when you saw your parents overwhelmed and decided that you couldn't afford to be another problem. So you became perfect and the world rewarded you for it. But Jung teaches us that the persona, the mask we wear in society, is not who we truly are. It is a compromise, a role. And the more we invest in the mask, the more we betray the self. And now, decades later, you don't even remember who the real you was beneath it. There's a cost to that. You begin to feel hollow, not sad, not broken, just gone. You go through the motions. You say the right things. You nod at the right moments, but it's all surface. Because the core of you, the wild, untamed, vulnerable part of you, has been locked away. And now you're not sure if you even have a key. So what happens? You stop expecting anything from others. You stop opening up. You stop hoping someone will understand. Because every time you tried, you were met with cliches. It'll pass. Just be grateful. Stay positive. And so you stopped reaching out. You started minimizing your pain. You started telling yourself it wasn't that bad, but it was. It is. You just stopped allowing yourself to feel it, and now you feel nothing at all. That's not healing. That's emotional anesthesia. That's the body's emergency response to long-term self-neglect. But it won't last forever, because the truth always finds a way, and when it does, it will demand to be felt, and this is where the danger lies. When we silence our emotional truth for too long, it turns into symptoms, into physical tension, into anxiety, into unexplained fatigue, into short tempers and quiet breakdowns, into emotional numbness that becomes unbearable, and still you function, still you smile, still you show up. But inside, something is dying. And here's the brutal part. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to magically look at you one day and say, "You've been suffering, haven't you? Because you've hidden it too well. Because you've convinced the world you're fine. Because you've made strength your identity." So what now? Do you keep going like this? Do you keep dying slowly for the comfort of others, or do you finally stop lying? The truth is brutal, but freeing. You're not okay, and that's okay. What's not okay is pretending anymore. What's not okay is continuing to abandon yourself in the name of being strong. So what would it look like, Iman, to stop? Not to collapse, but to surrender. To say, "I'm tired. I need help. I want to be seen." Would the world end? Or would your real life finally begin? That's where we're headed. But to get there, you have to face the truth you've buried the deepest. The one that says, your strength was never in pretending. It was always in your vulnerability. And now it's time to remember what that feels like. Are you ready to go there? You've spent so long building the illusion that you're stable, that now you're terrified of what might happen if you stop performing. And yet it's not the chaos that should scare you, it's the silence. That suffocating silence that follows every fake smile. That silence you feel when you close the door at night and realize you're alone with the version of yourself you've been hiding from for years. The need to appear in control, where did it come from? Maybe it started with someone shaming your tears, or maybe it was the day life spun out of control and you decided you'd never let that happen again. You made a vow silently to yourself, "I will never fall apart again," and you kept that vow at any cost. But Carl Jung warned us, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. That's exactly what this performance has become. An escape, a defense mechanism, a subconscious prison designed to shield you from pain, but also from healing. The more you hold onto this mask of stability, the more distant you become from your truth. You aren't just faking it to others. You're lying to yourself. You've convinced yourself that falling apart is weakness, that losing control means failure, that asking for help is shameful. But these are not truths. These are survival myths. Myths you built to stay alive. And they worked until now, because now they're killing you. What part of this video hit you the hardest? Let it out in the comments. Your story might help someone else heal too. And if you felt understood here, hit that subscribe button so we can walk this path together. Here's something most people won't admit. We're addicted to control because it gives us the illusion of safety. And the reason that illusion is so powerful is because uncertainty feels like death, literal emotional death. It threatens everything we use to define who we are. But what if the very thing you fear, uncertainty, is the only path to actual freedom? The control you cling to doesn't protect you. It imprisons you. It forces you to anticipate every scenario, suppress every emotion, predict every outcome. You think you're staying safe, but what you're really doing is living inside a shrinking world. A world where nothing unexpected can happen, meaning nothing real can happen either. The obsession with appearing okay has robbed you of the chance to become okay. You can't heal while lying to yourself. You can't breathe while wearing a mask. And you definitely can't grow while clinging to an identity rooted in fear. Think about how many times you've declined vulnerability in the name of pride. How many moments you've swallowed the urge to cry because you thought it would make you look weak. How many friendships you've sabotaged by being too strong to need anyone. You've made peace with isolation because it feels safer than rejection. But that's not peace. That's a trauma response. Here's the truth. What you call stability is really suppression. You've replaced authentic expression with performance. You've traded freedom for control. And now you're wondering why everything feels so lifeless. You've sterilized your emotions to keep yourself from falling apart. And in doing so, you've sterilized your life. Carl Jung believed that the path to healing requires integration, not rejection, not denial, but bringing all parts of the self into consciousness. The broken, the weak, the enraged, the confused. Not just the parts you like, not just the ones that get applause. And that's the scariest part, letting those buried parts of you speak. But if you don't, they speak anyway. Through anxiety, nightmares, chronic tension, explosive outbursts, burnout, they will find a voice. The only choice you have is whether you'll listen on your own terms or be forced to listen when everything collapses. Let me ask you this, how much longer can you pretend? How many more years will you survive rather than live? Because no matter how good you are at faking it, your body knows. Your body keeps score. Your soul remembers every time you told yourself to shut up, stay strong, smile anyway. And it's starting to rebel. You're waking up exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep. You're finding it hard to care about things you used to love. You're snapping at people over small things, then apologizing like you committed a crime. These are not coincidences. These are cracks in the mask. And the cracks are begging to be widened. Because somewhere deep inside, you're still alive, still aching for truth, still longing for someone, maybe even just yourself, to say, you don't have to carry this anymore. But before anyone else can give you that permission, you have to give it to yourself. You have to admit, I am not okay, and not as a confession of defeat, but as a declaration of freedom. The moment you stop pretending is the moment you begin to feel, and the moment you begin to feel is the moment healing starts. Yes, it will be messy. Yes, it will be terrifying, but it will also be real. And for the first time in years, so will you, because right now what's killing you isn't your pain. It's the lie you tell to cover it. Let that sink in. The lie is louder than the suffering. The lie demands more energy than the truth. The lie is what isolates you from connection, intimacy, authenticity. And the worst part, no one even knows you're lying, because you've gotten too good at it. But there's a crack in your armor now, and it's growing. Every silent breakdown, every unexplained tension, every forced smile, it's all adding pressure. The mask is slipping, and beneath it, your truth is waiting. What happens when you stop holding it together? What happens when you stop pretending to be the strong one? What happens when you say, I'm not okay, and let that be enough? You don't need to answer now. Just let the question sit with you. Because in the next part, we're going to dig into the shame, the deep, corrosive shame that keeps you quiet. The kind that makes you believe you're too much, too weak, too broken, and most dangerously, not worthy of being helped. That's the next wound we're going to face together. Are you ready? There's a reason you don't ask for help even when you're breaking, and it's not pride, it's shame. A quiet, paralyzing shame that whispers, if they really knew what you feel, they'd walk away. You've convinced yourself that your pain is not only unbearable, it's unacceptable. So instead of reaching out, you shrink, you isolate, you disappear behind the performance of strength because the truth feels too ugly to be witnessed. But here's what you've never been told. That shame is not yours. It was taught, imposed, programmed into you through rejection, ridicule, punishment, or emotional neglect. Somewhere along the line, your needs became an inconvenience. Your emotions became a threat, and your identity, your true essence, was labeled too much or not enough at the exact same time. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He called it the shadow, the parts of us we bury because we believe they make us unlovable. But here's the paradox. The more we hide them, the more power they gain. Shame feeds on secrecy. It grows stronger in silence. And when you avoid it long enough, it doesn't just distort how you feel. It rewrites who you are. You start believing you're defective, that something is wrong with you, not with what happened to you. And that belief becomes your operating system. You no longer feel broken. You become broken. And from that place, even love feels threatening. Even kindness feels suspicious. You turn away what you crave most, because somewhere deep inside you don't think you deserve it. That's the tragedy of shame. It doesn't just hurt you, it hides you from the world. Let's be honest. You've had moments, flashes, where someone got too close, where someone saw past the mask. And what did you do? You pulled away. You got cold. You made a joke. You changed the subject. Because vulnerability doesn't feel like relief to someone soaked in shame. It feels like exposure, danger, risk. But what if that fear was just a wound, replaying itself over and over? What if that shame isn't proof of your unworthiness, but proof of your sensitivity, your depth, your unmet need for truth? Jung wrote, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and yet it is the only path out. Because no mask, no matter how polished, can heal the wound it's designed to cover. You have to face it. You have to stop calling yourself the problem. The shame you carry is not your essence. It's a reaction to years of emotional abandonment by others and now by yourself. It's what happens when you're told to toughen up, to smile through grief, to pretend through trauma, to package your soul in politeness and performance. You're not too much. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're wounded. And those wounds, if brought into the light, become the very place your power lives. But power doesn't come from pretending nothing hurts. Power comes from walking into the wound and refusing to be silent anymore. And that means allowing the old voices to die, the ones that say you're a burden, that no one cares, that asking for help is a failure. Those voices are echoes of people who couldn't hold space for their own emotions, let alone yours. Their limitations are not your identity. If someone made you feel ashamed for crying, it's because they were never allowed to cry. If someone mocked your sensitivity, it's because they buried their own. If someone dismissed your needs, it's because no one ever taught them how to meet their own. Do you see the pattern? You've inherited generations of pain, and somewhere along the way, you turned it inward. You made it your fault. But healing begins the moment you stop carrying shame that isn't yours to hold. Let me ask you this. What would happen if you stopped apologizing for your emotions? What if you stopped explaining your silence, justifying your sensitivity, minimizing your needs? What if you just existed as you are, without performance? It would terrify people. It would confuse them. It might even push some away, but that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect the fragile flame of truth inside you, the part that remembers who you were before the shame, before the mask, before the noise. And if that means walking alone for a while, so be it. Because solitude is sacred when it's chosen for healing. It's only dangerous when it becomes a punishment. You've punished yourself long enough. Now it's time to face the parts you abandoned, the little moments where you swallowed pain just to make it to the next day, the smiles you faked, the boundaries you erased, the truths you never told, not to blame yourself, but to finally hold yourself with the compassion you never received, and it's going to hurt. Let's not lie about that. Shame doesn't leave quietly. It screams, it clings, it fights for relevance because it thinks it's keeping you safe. But you're not here to stay safe. You're here to live. Carl Jung knew that integration, the full acceptance of our inner contradictions, is not just psychological healing. It's spiritual rebirth, and it starts with reclaiming the very parts of yourself you've been hiding. Because once you stop hiding, something shifts. Leave a comment telling us what this video awakened in you. Even if it's hard to put into words, we're listening. And if this space felt safe to you, subscribe. This is just the beginning of your transformation. The anxiety loses its grip. The anger begins to speak clearly. The exhaustion becomes fuel. And your soul, your real soul, starts breathing again. So take one step, just one. Speak one truth out loud. Cry without apologizing. Say, I'm tired, without a smile. Say, I need help without a joke. Say, I feel alone, and mean it. That's not weakness. That's a sacred return. And once you begin, the shame loses power, because shame cannot survive in truth. In the final part, we'll explore what it means to live from that truth, to rebuild not the illusion of control, but the foundation of inner power that no one can take from you. Not society, not your past, not even your fear. That's where we're headed next. Let's go there, together. There is a moment in every healing journey when silence becomes unbearable, not because it's empty, but because it's full of the things you've never said. All the buried emotions, the forgotten versions of yourself, the whispered dreams you gave up on to survive, they begin to rise, not to break you, but to break you open. And this is the final threshold. You've spent years managing symptoms, overthinking, people-pleasing, perfectionism, but now the wound itself is exposed, raw, unfiltered, real, and it's terrifying because you can't intellectualize your way out of pain anymore. You can't rationalize the numbness, the emptiness, the quiet panic that wakes you at 3 a.m. You feel it now, fully. This is where most people run, but you won't, because somewhere along this path you stopped asking, how do I go back to who I used to be? And you started asking, what if I was never supposed to be that person in the first place? Carl Jung wrote, we are not what happened to us, we are what we choose to become. You are not your pain. You are not the version of you that had to survive without love, without being seen, without being understood. You are the becoming, the transformation, the spark buried beneath years of silence that never stopped burning. And now that fire is waking up. But this awakening isn't loud. It's not about shouting affirmations or posting quotes. It's quiet, humble, deeply personal. It looks like telling the truth when it's easier to lie. It looks like saying no without guilt. It looks like sitting with fear and not abandoning yourself when it rises. You no longer need to perform strength. You've earned it. True strength is crying in the dark and getting up anyway. It's looking at your shadow and saying, I won't leave you behind anymore. It's choosing to live with your brokenness, not despite it, because the truth is, your soul doesn't want to be perfect. It wants to be whole. Wholeness includes the fear, the shame, the rage, the joy, the longing, the confusion. All of it. That's the sacred work. That's the rebirth, and it's not linear. You will lose people. You will disappoint the ones who only loved your mask. You will question yourself. You will fall back into old patterns. But this time, you'll notice. You'll interrupt the spiral. You'll come back faster. Because now you have a new compass. Truth. And the truth is this. You were never too much. You were never too weak. You were never broken beyond repair. You were just trying to survive in a world that punished your depth. But now, you get to live. Authentically, radically, fearlessly, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if no one claps. Because healing isn't a finish line. It's a homecoming. A return to yourself, slow, sacred, and unstoppable. So when the shame returns, and it will, meet it with compassion. When the loneliness whispers, you're still unlovable, respond with presence. When the doubt creeps in, remind yourself, you've already survived everything you thought would destroy you. Now it's time to do more than survive. It's time to be seen, not as who the world expects, but as who you are when no one is watching. Let that person rise, let them speak, let them take up space, because you're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to remember yourself, and that memory is sacred. To everyone who made it to the end of this video, thank you. Not just for listening, but for feeling it, for staying, for choosing to face what most people spend their lives avoiding. This space we created together is real, and if you felt seen in this video, you were, because you matter. Your story matters, and your healing is not only possible, it's already begun. If this message touched something inside you, leave a comment below, share your truth, even if it's just one sentence. There is someone else here reading who needed to know they weren't alone, and if you're ready to keep going, if you're ready to take the next step on this journey, there's a video on the screen right now that will take you even deeper. Click it. Watch it. Don't stop now. You're already becoming the person you were always meant to be. We'll meet you there.